All right. You may be seated. Distinguished guests, graduates, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Rick Kobeck. I'm the president of Michigan Tech, and welcome to Michigan Technological University's 2022 Spring Commencement Exercises. We also welcome all of those viewing us online from around the globe. Now you can please stand again for the national anthem, sung by Megan Morgenstern, Ali Southgate, Kevin Barnhart, and Wade Schultz.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Please be seated. Good morning, and thank you for joining us as we celebrate this important milestone in your life. Graduates, congratulations on your latest accomplishment. It's truly a time to reflect, rejoice, and celebrate your hard work and dedication. Now, for most, the road to graduation was not traveled alone. There are many people who partnered with you on this journey. Would the parents, grandparents, spouses, children, and all other special guests in the audience please stand so we can recognize you? Here you go. Graduates, join me in recognizing your family. Woo! Yep. Thank you for your unwavering support. Now there's another group I'd like to also recognize. That's Michigan Tech's faculty and staff, who are renowned for their scholarship and research. Yet they're exceptional teachers and mentors, and most importantly, they are passionate about your education. Would our faculty and staff in the audience please stand so we can recognize you? Thank you. Thank you. Graduates, look around. I hope you remember today's celebration fondly and with true appreciation for the many people who have contributed to your educational journey, including those who could not be with us today. Now on stage, we have many people assisting with today's ceremony, including the university's Board of Trustees. Now please hold your applause until all of the platform party has been introduced. Chair of the Board, Jeffrey Littman. Vice Chair of the Board, Brenda Ryan. Board Member John Bacon, Board Member John Jipping, Board Member Matt Johnson, Board Member Durhan Sanders, and Board Member Stephen Tomacheski. Also on the stage is Dr. Jackie Hontoon, our Provost and Senior Vice President of Academic Affairs, Dr. Sam Schweitz, University Marshal, University Senate President, and Professor, Dr. Janet Callahan, Dean of the College of Engineering, Dr. Will Cantrell, Dean of the Graduate School and Associate Provost for Graduate Education, Dr. Dean Johnson, Dean of the College of Business, Dr. Andrew Storer, Dean of the College of Forest Resources and Environmental Science, Dr. David Himmer, Dean of the College of Science and Arts, Dr. Dennis Livesey, Dean of the College of Computing, Dr. Gene Kemp, Dean of the Pavlis Honors College and Associate Provost for Undergraduate Education, Dr. Wallace Sutherland III, Vice President for Student Affairs and Dean of Students, and U.S. Representative General Jack Bergman, Major Daniel Gauch, United States Army, Lieutenant Colonel Joseph Pullen, United States Air Force, Kristen Collage, President of the Alumni Board and Executive Director at J.D. Power, and Brooke Teherna, our graduate student speaker. Thank you. Now we have a tradition here at Michigan Tech of having a student address our fellow graduates. This year's speaker will graduate today with a Bachelor of Science in Medical Laboratory Science. She grew up in Calumet, 15 minutes north of Michigan Tech, and as a result, she loves the outdoors, especially during the summer when she's most of her free time camping. After graduation, she plans working in a hospital lab as an assistant till she begins her practicum next year. Ladies and gentlemen, our 2022 student commencement speaker, Brooke Teherna. Brooke, come on up.
Good morning, President Kobeck, members of the Board of Trustees, honored guests, faculty and staff, and fellow graduates. Welcome to this year's spring commencement ceremony. I am grateful to the members of the selection committee for choosing me to be your student speaker. Wow, today is truly such a special day for so many of us. And it's a day that I really never thought I would be experiencing. After all, many of you may not expect a college dropout to be delivering inspirational remarks or receiving a college degree. But that is not the end of my story. Last year, I was supposed to be where you are, but I, instead, found myself not in school, definitely not graduating, and applying for summer jobs. My parents were confused on how their daughter, who continuously made the dean's list, managed to completely fail one of her last semesters of college. And I was confused too. The COVID-19 pandemic took away any sense of normalcy in my life. And for many of you, I'm sure it did the same. The pandemic took away my family and my friends, classmates who I'd known for years, and my carefully planned routines. It also felt like my husky spirit was stolen from me. Now, something about me is I do not handle change well. So when the winds of life shifted, I found myself fighting the wind, going in circles and never moving forward. And some of you may know what that's like. I'd like to say that it was easy to regain my husky spirit, that I stepped up and I put in the work all on my own, but that would not be the complete truth. I struggled. I received a lot of help from my family and my friends, and I had to relearn in a world that had suddenly changed so drastically. I panicked at checking my emails, and that's something that the old me would have never feared. I had to sit in my car working up the courage to hand in job applications. One of the hardest things that I had to do was tell my family and my friends what was going on in my life, why I wasn't in school, and why I wasn't graduating within the normal time frame. Every time I had to face a fear, I did it. I wish I could say I did so without hesitation, but nonetheless, I faced those fears. My desire to return to Michigan Tech to earn my degree kept me focused and grounded. I think the most difficult thing I had to do was reapply to be a Husky and to come back to class as a returning student and sit in classes full of faces that I no longer recognized. It felt like my first day as a freshman all over again, and I found myself sitting in class wondering, can I really do this? But I did. Thankfully, Michigan Tech creates an environment of inclusivity, strength, and community. Every single classmate and professor helped me regain the bits and pieces of the Husky spirit that I had lost. The joy that I once had for learning slowly returned. Each time that my lab mates laughed at my jokes or trusted me enough to draw their blood during phlebotomy lab, I felt my spirit grow stronger. When I was given second chances, chances that I wasn't sure I deserved by my professors, I felt my spirit grow even stronger. Whether my classmates and my professors knew it, they helped to heal something that was once broken, and I have regained parts of me that I once lost. And I cannot thank the students and professors at Michigan Tech enough for the kindness that they have shown me. Nor can I thank my family and my friends for the love, support, and encouragement they have shown me throughout my entire life. I know that there are many students who have stories like mine, students that have struggled and fought to be here today, or maybe students that aren't quite here yet. It's okay, I was there too. My story and my struggle are not unique, but that does not make them unimportant. Remember, Huskies, be kind to yourself. Keep that spirit strong. I wish all of you the best in your future. Congratulations.
Thank you, Brooke. Our commencement speaker today is a member of our very own Board of Trustees, John Bacon, who's worked for 3 decades as a writer, public speaker, radio commentator, and college instructor. He earned an honors degree in history from the University of Michigan in 1986 and a master's in education in 1994, and was a Knight Wallace Journalism Fellow in 2005. From 1995 to 1999, he wrote for the Detroit News, including features on the Mackinac Bridge, Robert Volker's Anatomy of a Murder, and the Keweenaw's George Gipp, falling in love with the Upper Peninsula in the process. He left the newspaper in 1999 to freelance for the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post, among others. He taught at the University of Michigan for 12 years and has authored 12 books. The last 7 have been national bestsellers. He also delivers weekly commentary on Michigan radio and occasionally NPR, often appearing on national TV, and is a popular public speaker. John was appointed as a Michigan Tech trustee in 2019 and is focused on academics, development, and Michigan Tech's Traverse City Partnership. He lives in Ann Arbor with his wife Christy and son Teddy, who are here with us today, and it's my honor to introduce our 2022 commencement speaker, Trustee John Bacon. John?
Thank you, President Kobeck, one of the best presidents Michigan Tech has ever had already. Also, they're a lot taller than I am, so watch this. And by the way, Brooke, you did a fantastic job. We've been talking a lot the last 2 days getting ready for this stuff, of course. So, thanks also to the officers at Michigan Tech, my fellow trustees, the deans, the chairs, the fantastic faculty, the staff, and especially, of course, you, the students. And let's not forget your families, of course, who've supported you throughout the effort. Thank you again to all the families. I better thank my family, of course. My wife, Christy, and my son, Teddy, are up there in the president's box. And I believe Teddy is snapping a salute right now. He is 6 years old. He's way into the military. And he told me if he does that, I am supposed to say, thank you for your service. So. As you were, soldier. I can't get choked up in the first minute of this speech, obviously, but I'll tell you what right now. I know exactly how your parents feel right now, your families feel. When I tell you they love you more than you will ever know, trust me. Let's get into it. First, congratulations. This is a seminal achievement, of course, and not an easy one at all. You are graduating today from a world-class university with degrees in engineering, in business, in forestry, in science and the arts, and humanities. You are graduating with degrees in almost every possible major except mine, history. Not one of you today is graduating with a degree in history, which my engineering and business roommates called pre-unemployment. And they would ask me questions like, history, do you like that? And I would say, no, I hate it, but the money is too good. And I got so tired of the question of what are you going to do with that I finally looked him right in the eye and said, I'm going to join one of those large history firms in New York. By the time they realized they don't exist, I was out of that conversation. So, well, now that we've established my credentials, let me tell you, if I can give the graduation speech at Michigan Technological University, you people can do anything. The most important idea I got from studying history is what I will call the myth of inevitability. This tells us that the present world we're living in was created by these enormous, unstoppable forces, but it's not true. Individuals and moments have made a profound impact on the world we live in today. That is a powerful idea, and I'll revisit it shortly, but first let's talk about what makes this day special, what makes Michigan Tech special, of course, and why you are uniquely prepared to face this brave new world. It is hard to get into Michigan Tech. It is harder still, of course, to graduate from it. Living here is not easy either. But the hard is what makes Tech good. The hard is what has made you good. I learned this lesson naturally the hard way. In 2000, I was the Ann Arbor Huron River Rats high school hockey team, and I'm not making that up. We are actually called the River Rats. In Ann Arbor, we got one. God bless you. We have one more River Rat fan than we have history majors here, so that's, I'll take it. Thank you very much. A once proud program had fallen on hard times in the year 2000. They finished the season 0-22-3. For you non-sports fans out there, the 0 is where the wins go, okay? The 22 is the losses, and the 3 were the ties. There's some website that ranks 1,000 teams nationwide, which is kind of crazy in itself. And Ann Arbor Huron that year finished dead last. It's kind of impressive in a way. Even worse, the man they hired to turn the program around, yours truly, happens to have been the worst player in school history. And this is not false modesty. I can prove this empirically, which I know you people like. I still hold the record, not bragging, just saying, for the most games in a Huron uniform, 86, with the fewest goals, 0. And that record has never been beaten. You cannot beat 0 in high school hockey. It's actually a family record. I hold it with my brother, who was also on the team and also failed to score, although, as he likes to point out, he played goalie. We've all got excuses. So here we have the worst team in America, led by the worst player in school history. Yes! This is the combination we've been looking for. All right, this is going to be hard, so what do? You get help. I sought out my mentor, Al Clark of Culver Academies, who has got more wins in high school hockey than any coach in America. Great guy, great friend. And his advice I've never forgotten. He said the first thing you've got to do is to make it special to play for Huron. And the easiest way to make it special is to make it hard. The easiest way to make it special is to make it hard. This is the exact opposite of what everyone else is telling me. But he's right when you think about it. The Navy SEALs has got to be about the toughest job in the world. That job pays an average salary of about $54,000. And yet they only accept 6% of those who apply. How can they afford to be so picky? And the reason is they're not selling a salary. They're selling a mission, a challenge, and a profound sense of belonging. That's what you get from the Navy SEALs. They don't apologize for the fact that it's hard. They celebrate the fact that it's hard. That's how they attract the right people. And I thought that makes sense to me. So I sent out a letter to my future players. I'd never met them yet. And it said, congratulations, you are trying out for the state's hardest working high school hockey team. And I meant it, and we were. 1 week after school got out, on June 28th, 2000, we're in the gym, we're on the track, working out 3 days a week, every month for 4 straight months before the season even began. It was brutal, and every one of us threw up on that track at some point or other, including yours truly. Sorry about that. And yet, not one player quit. I was not expecting that. This is the worst team. These aren't Navy SEALs. This is the worst team in America. Not one player quit. They were starving for a sense of purpose, real ambition, and a special unit who would understand each other. That's what we were selling at Huron. Late in August, classic Michigan day, it rains cats and dogs in the morning. By that afternoon at 12:30 when we're on the track, the sun has come out, it is 93 degrees, and it's blazing. And it's so hot on the track that steam is coming up. So much steam that I turn to my players and say, gentlemen, look down the football field. Can you see the goalposts? And the air was so wavy, you couldn't make them out. I said, that's right. This is the hottest hour of the hottest day of the entire year, and we are lucky to be on the track today. We're not going to whine about this. We're not going to cry about this. We're going to brag about this and break every record we've got on the track today. Now, who's with me? And all the guys were. They're into it by then, except for a new guy, a ninth grader, who grumbled something. And that's when, not me, but our captain, Mike Henry, turns to him and says, hey, you play for Huron, and it's harder over here. And that's when I said, booyah, yes! The culture had been soaked in. They were now leading the team. Our culture changed at that moment. Everything changed at that moment. Individuals matter, and moments matter. And at that point on, we're taking off. Most improved team in school history the first year. Second year, they broke that record from 7 wins to 16 wins. As my father told me when I took the job, when you're on the floor, you cannot fall out of bed. Let that one sink in. My dad is not a motivational speaker, by the way. And he's right. We went from 0 to 7 to 16, broke that record our third year. We were 17, 4, and 5. We were number 4 in the state. We were number 53 in the nation. We had passed 95% of the nation's teams in 3 years, and I didn't cut one guy from that 0, 22, and 3 teams. Same guys did it. All right? And don't forget, I did not score a single goal as a player, and I certainly did not score a single goal as a coach. These guys did all of that. And that was cool. Well, you went to Michigan Tech, and guess what? It is harder up here. And that is a calling card. That is a point of pride. Never apologize for that, of course. Your story starts in 1885, and I guarantee you when the founders got together here in Houghton, they did not say, you know what, this will be fun. Mining copper is hard. Engineering, all that is hard. Business is hard. Forestry is hard. Everything here is hard. Nothing here is easy. That's the point. Michigan Tech is not on the way to anywhere. No one ever got here by accident, and I'm willing to bet even your friends from high school still really don't know where you go to school. Mountain Dew can't find you. They get the joke. I don't know if the parents do, but living here is not easy either. You live on the snowiest campus in America. But you've not just survived here, you've thrived here. You've seen the Northern Lights from your campus. Some of you wear ski goggles to class and cargo shorts at the same time. I've seen this. When you apply for jobs, just tell them this. I went to a school where we shovel snow off the roof, and then we go sunbathing on the roof. Trust me when I tell you, you will stand out. I've never seen any students who embrace the outdoors more than you do. It is because your school is hard. It's because the winters here are so tough that you've made friendships that will last forever. One of the graduates today told me, up here, we stick together. And Brooke's speech spoke to that as well. The strength of the bonds you forged will last a lifetime. Who else could understand your experience? Michigan Tech is not for everybody. That's the point. If it was for everybody, your pep band would look very different. We had to get something from those guys. My son, by the way, loves you. We do too, of course. So, we are not simply celebrating your graduation day today. We are celebrating years of hard work and hard choices, long nights that often became early mornings, and, dare I say it, tenacity. You cannot get to this stage any other way. At Michigan Tech, they offer no shortcuts. We know how hard it is to live up here. We know how hard you've worked. The world does not see you coming, but we do. Today, we are not releasing a pack of domesticated puppies out into the wild. We are unleashing full-grown huskies. And you are ready to run. Now, where and for what? This is where I'm supposed to tell you, do what you love and the money will follow. But I'm not going to tell you that because it's not always true. Sometimes the money follows and sometimes it doesn't. But that's not the important thing to me. I think you already know this. Your generation especially is motivated less by pay and power and prestige and more by a challenge, a mission, and a deep sense of belonging. Coaching my high school hockey team might have been the most rewarding experience of my life, certainly one of them, and I paid a grand total of $5,000. That is not even high four figures. That's low pay right there, and yet I go to all their weddings to this day. This is 18 years ago. They still come back for our summer barbecue every year. Their kids are older than my kids. They give me parenting advice, and I have to take it. But let me tell you, when I die, those are the guys who are going to carry my casket. That's how much they mean to me. That's how much I love those guys. Somebody who I know would understand this is John McGinnis himself. McGinnis was born and raised in Toronto, and shortly after World War II, enrolled at the University of Michigan, sight unseen. He played goalie on great teams there and graduated in 1950. In 1956, at the ripe age of 31, he became your hockey coach here at Michigan Tech. He won 3 national titles, but he was far more proud of the fact that he graduated 94% of all his players. That is impressive. And for that reason, the students here on campus had such profound respect for that man that, believe it or not, 50 years ago, the students voted to tax themselves to raise the money for this building. This is a student-funded building, and that's why they call it the John McGinnis Student Ice Arena. That's impressive. Now that's legacy enough for anyone, but that is not why I am indebted to John McGinnis. In 1954, 2 years before he moved to Michigan Tech, back in Ann Arbor, he started the Ann Arbor Amateur Hockey Association, our Little League, and I'm sure it was not for the money. 18 years later, in 1972, when he's coaching up here, I became one of the squirt players in that league and played there all my life and went on to high school hockey and so on. I did not end up being a great player, as has been documented. But the amazing thing to me is almost every professional opportunity I have gotten is directly linked to playing hockey. The Ann Arbor News, the Detroit News, the Wall Street Journal, half of my books would not have been available to me did I not have that hockey connection. And that is how powerful your life can be when you try to find ways to help other people. I never met John McGinnis, but I can make a pretty good case that I would not be talking to you today if he did not help kids I'd never met 68 years ago. That is the ripples of a life well lived. Individuals matter, and moments matter. Years from now, when people talk about your lives, they will not talk about how rich or famous you became. They will talk about only 2 things: the values you stood for and the people you helped. That's it. That's the whole show. You had strong values before you came here, or you wouldn't have come here. Your years here have made you and your values stronger still, and your family can see it. No one in America is better prepared to make a big difference than you are today. So don't tell me that the future has already been written. I know that it hasn't been, because you are the ones who are going to write it. You are the individuals. The moments are in front of you. The future truly is yours. Grab it. Thank you.
That was awesome. Thank you, John. Many of you have excelled in your studies and are wearing honor cords in recognition of your accomplishments. Those of you graduating cum laude are wearing copper honor cords, those graduating magna cum laude, silver honor cords, and those graduating summa cum laude wearing gold honor cords. Each of you can be proud that you've earned this honor. Would you please stand so we can recognize you as well, if you're in that group? All right. Thank you. Now, many of our students are wearing additional cords and sashes, signifying involvement in everything from athletics to study abroad to university and to national student organizations. But you may also notice a few wearing red, white, and blue honor cords. They are veterans of our armed forces, and we salute their service. Would our veterans that are graduating today please stand? Thank you. And thank you. The degrees will now be conferred upon the class of 2022. Dr. Will Cantrell will present the candidates for graduate degrees. Dr. Cantrell.
The recipients of the Doctor of Philosophy degree will now receive their academic hood. The hoods are lined with the official colors of Michigan Tech, and the dark blue velvet edging indicates mastery of the discipline of learning and a record of scholarship. Will the candidates for the Doctor of Philosophy degree and their advisors please rise? Chair Littman, I present the candidates for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in their respective fields. Upon completion of their required curricula, these candidates are hereby recommended by the graduate faculty to receive this degree.
Upon the recommendation of the graduate faculty and by the authority vested in me, I hereby confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Philosophy with all the rights and privileges as well as the obligations and responsibilities thereto appertaining. In witness whereof, you will be presented with a hood.
Will the doctoral candidates and their advisors please come to the platform? Please hold your applause until all the candidates have been recognized. Presenting candidates for the College of Computing. Doctor of Philosophy in Computer Science, Jabon Adakari. Advisor, Dr. Keith Vertanen. Presenting candidates for the College of Sciences and Arts. Okay. Doctor of Philosophy in Applied Cognitive Science and Human Factors, Warat Kiruatana. Advisors, Dr. Elizabeth Venat and Dr. Shane Mueller. Doctor of Philosophy Doctor of Philosophy in Applied Cognitive Science and Human Factors, Caitlin Ruse. Advisor, Dr. Elizabeth Vinat. Doctor of Philosophy in Applied Physics, Andrew Pillard. Advisor, Dr. Brian Fick. Doctor of Philosophy in Biochemistry and Molecular Biology, Avik Ghosh. Advisor, Dr. Marina Tanasova. Doctor of Philosophy in Biochemistry and Molecular Biology, Arsalan Amir. Advisor, Dr. Xiaohu Tang. Doctor of Philosophy in Biological Sciences, also receiving a Master of Science degree in Biological Sciences, Tayat Oletum. Advisor, Dr. Xiaohu Tang. Doctor of Philosophy in Biological Sciences, also receiving a Master's degree of Science in Biological Sciences, Aaron Eberhard. Advisor, Dr. Amy Marcarelli. Doctor of Philosophy in Biological Sciences, Kevin Navorsky. Advisor, Dr. Amy Marcarelli. Doctor of Philosophy in Biological Sciences, Rashi Yadav. Advisors, Dr. Rupali Datta and Dr. Ebenezer Tumban. Hooded by Dr. Rupali Datta. Doctor of Philosophy in Chemistry, also receiving Master of Science degree in Chemistry, Chatura de Alwas. Advisor, Dr. Catherine Perrine. Doctor of Philosophy in Chemistry, also receiving a Master of Science degree in Chemistry, Para Yash. Advisor, Dr. Patricia Hayden. Doctor of Philosophy in Chemistry, Dhananjani Ariyagama. Advisor, Dr. Shiyu Fang. Doctor of Philosophy in Environmental and Energy Policy, Betel Tarek, I apologize, Tarake. Advisor, Dr. Roman Sidortsov. Doctor of Philosophy in Industrial Heritage and Archaeology, Talva Jacobson. Advisors, Dr. Timothy Scarlett and Dr. Melissa Baird. Doctor of Philosophy in Physics, Mingshua Ya. Advisor, Dr. Yokin Yap. Presenting the candidates for the College of Engineering. Doctor of Philosophy in Biomedical Engineering, Ariana Smees. Advisors, Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick and Dr. Rupak Rajakar, hooded by Dr. Rupak Rajakar. Doctor of Philosophy in Biomedical Engineering, Srinivas Kannan. Advisors, Dr. Smitha Rao Hati and Dr. Marina Tanasova, hooded by both Dr. Hadi and Dr. Tanasova. Doctor of Philosophy in Biomedical Engineering, also receiving a Master of Science degree in Biomedical Engineering, Samarinder Nagam Hanumantharao. Advisor, Dr. Smitha Rao Hadi. Doctor of Philosophy in Chemical Engineering, also receiving a Master of Science degree in Chemical Engineering, Daniel Koulis. Advisor, Dr. David Schonard. Doctor of Philosophy in Chemical Engineering, Natalia Parra Alvarez. Advisor, Dr. Surendra Kawatra, hooded by Dr. Timothy Isley. Doctor of Philosophy in Computer Engineering, Omkar Javeri, advisor, Dr. Soner Onder. Doctor of Philosophy in Electrical Engineering, also receiving a Master of Science degree in Electrical Engineering, Shane Oberlawyer. Advisors, Dr. Glenn Archer and Dr. Joshua Pierce, hooded by Dr. Archer. Doctor of Philosophy in Electrical Engineering, Mehdi Malekra. Advisor, Dr. Paul Bergstrom. Doctor of Philosophy in Engineering, Environmental Engineering, Padmalikta Varanasi. Advisor, Dr. Daisuke Minakata, hooded by Dr. Audra Morse. Doctor of Philosophy in Geology, Emily Gachis. Advisor, Dr. John Gierke. Doctor of Philosophy in Material Science and Engineering, Freshta Malakpur. Advisor, Dr. Eric Herbert. Doctor of Philosophy in Material Science and Engineering, Masood Kasrawi. Advisor, Dr. Parisa Por Shahid Saeed Abadi. Doctor of Philosophy in Material Science and Engineering, Morteza Shaker Ardakani. Advisors, Dr. Yaroslav Dralik and Dr. Stephen Camp, hooded by Dr. Stephen Camp. Doctor of Philosophy in Material Science and Engineering, also receiving a Master of Science degree in Material Science and Engineering, Ninad Mohule. Advisor, Dr. Walter Milligan. Doctor of Philosophy in Mechanical Engineering, Engineering Mechanics, Suraj Prabhu. Advisor, Dr. Andrew Bernard. Doctor of Philosophy in Mechanical Engineering, Engineering Mechanics, Thomas Mancuso. Advisors, Dr. Abhijit Mukherjee and Dr. Craig Friedrich, hooded by Dr. Fernando Ponta. Doctor of Philosophy in Mechanical Engineering, Engineering Mechanics, Karar Taklif Alaferi. Advisors, Dr. Jeffrey Allen and Dr. Ezekiel Medici, hooded by Dr. Jeffrey Allen. Doctor of Philosophy in Mechanical Engineering, Engineering Mechanics, also receiving Master of Science degree in Mechanical Engineering, Sauduf Batul. Advisors, Dr. Jeffrey Neighbor and Dr. Mahdi Shabakti, hooded by Dr. Jeffrey Neighbor. Doctor of Philosophy in Mechanical Engineering, Engineering Mechanics, also receiving a Master of Science degree in Mechanical Engineering, Vinicius Bonfoki Veenhays. Advisors, Dr. Jeffrey Neighbor and Dr. Mahdi Shabakti, hooded by Dr. Neighbor. Doctor of Philosophy in Mechanical Engineering, Engineering Mechanics, Nirunjan Miguna Kalu. Advisor, Dr. Jeffrey Neighbor. Doctor of Philosophy in Mechanical Engineering, Engineering Mechanics, Munghan Chao. Advisor, Dr. Kazuya Tajiri. Doctor of Philosophy in Mechanical Engineering, Engineering Mechanics, Jihao Zhao. Advisor, Dr. Seong Yong Lee. Doctor of Philosophy in Mechanical Engineering, Engineering Mechanics, Sean Chow. Advisors, Dr. Wayne Weaver, Dr. Osama Abdul Khalik, hooded by Dr. Weaver. Congratulations, graduates. Will the candidates for the master's degrees please rise? Chair Littman, I present the candidates for the master's degrees in their respective fields. Upon completion of their required curricula, these candidates are hereby recommended by the graduate faculty to receive this degree.
Upon the recommendation of the graduate faculty and by the authority vested in me, I hereby confer upon you the degree of master with all the rights and privileges, as well as all the obligations and responsibilities thereto appertaining.
Will the candidates for the master's degrees please come to the platform to receive your diploma? And again, please hold your applause until all the candidates have been recognized. Presenting candidates for the College of Business. Master of Business Administration, William Blau. Malik Bush. Erica Karn. Cora Essenmacher. Max Fredrickson. Anthony Harris. Brady Jonas. Anna Ioannidis. Case Kaminga. Kyle Cucci. Nicholas Krebsbach. Andrea Peters. Tieran Powell. Alexander Roland. Kieran Schimmel. Megan Utlak. Aaron Vandenbush. Master of Engineering Management, Samantha Appleyard. Darian Hartshorn. Master of Science in Accounting, Sarah Anderson. Master of Science in Data Science, Rajath Nagaraj. Ukshata Shedge. Presenting candidates for the College of Forest Resources and Environmental Science. Master of Geographic Information Science, Emma Jones. Master of Science in Forest Ecology and Management, Emily Lindback. Presenting candidates for the College of Computing. Master of Science in Computer Science, Stephen Brzezinski. Parvanmanandan Chimadupati. Bradley Hoos. Ridwan Khan. Justin Martin. Karan Sanchanakoda. Master of Science in Cybersecurity, Bernard Kluskens. Dakota Patterson. Master of Science in Data Science, Pratik Adayalkar. Jordan Ewing. Navjoth Kaur. Grace Nemechek. Dana Pocket. Arnab Paul. Mara Pilar Kospar. Alexander Putman. Samantha Richardson. Catherine Schmidt. Master of Science in Health Informatics, Justin Bilan. Master of Science in Mechatronics, Joshua Albrecht. Eric Hauk. Presenting candidates for the College of Sciences and Arts. Master of Science in Applied Physics, Megan Morgenstern. Master of Science in Applied Statistics, Maria Angelake. Maria Angelake. Owen Applequist. Michael Jankowitz. Master of Science in Biological Sciences, Molly Fitzgerald. Austin Johnson. Zane Knuth. Lydia Rotman. Spencer Snyder. Craig Tongren. Master of Science in Environmental and Energy Policy, Olivia Gormley. Jordan Kelly. Master of Science in Mathematical Sciences, Pranya Parida. Master of Science in Physics, Ian Herzog. Sonali Mohan. Presenting the candidates for the College of Engineering. Master of Science in Biomedical Engineering, Jesse Jacobelsi. Master of Science in Chemical Engineering, Vinay Kumar Bogra. Joshua Cowdrey. Aditya Kumar. Paul Langsford. Nikita Pratap. Azadi Tamazabi. Master of Science in Civil Engineering, Emily Berkampas. Kelton Saitzio. Zachary Fredine. Charles Gota. Colton Heikkinen. Sydney Mukovets. Cooper Ryan. Alec Weiderman. Master of Science in Electrical and Computer Engineering, Rahul Dangay. Lucas Detterman. Debayan Ghosh. Sneha Gushaif. Matthew Lohr. Mikolai Paul. Rahul Pradhan. Shilpa Sharma. Chelsea Spitzner. Michael Sutor. Master of Science in Electrical Engineering, Devesh Bengali. Tahasin Cherichi. Amruta Gube. Manan Mehta. Anurag Nagpur. Rubina Parvies. Kshitija Patil. Amit Sabu. Shiwanshe Shukla. Kruthika Shetkar. Vivek Saurabh. Vabhabi Sham Tharwal. Ashish Wag. Master of Science in Environmental Engineering, Kyle Danko. Kiara Elcourt Wickbolt. Amanda Friel. Clinton Ottman. Bailey Papes. Brian Rivers. Master of Science in Geological Engineering, Brock Howell. Abby Rates. Master of Science in Geology, Joshua Breger. Nelmary Rodriguez Sepulveda. Master of Science in Geophysics, Brianne Houstons. Cassidy O'Connor. Master of Science in Integrated Geospatial Technology, Sean Hurst. Master of Science in Material Science and Engineering, Kyle Rubeski. Ravneet Kaylee. Shreyas Punamali Shrikant. Praneet Sudapali. Natalie Weber. Master of Science in Mechanical Engineering, Nikalesh Agarwal. William Atkinson. Indrani Gadgil. Rishikesh Artada. Sanjay Khanna Babu Venkatesh. Tonmai Bondi. Justin Bogart. Sahil Bakde. Shubham Chenchani. Pratik Dalvi. Sarub Basme. Jacob Calling. Bala Vadun Dharmala. Tanya Demonte Gonzalez. Laukesh Daki. Sneha Gadkari. Shivam Gupta. Navroz Honda. Manus Hardikar. Andrew Houston. Rishikesh Kadum. Ashutosh Anil Kalinkar. Swapnil Kanvinde. Pratik Korgaonkar. Kushal Kotar. Amun Kumar. Shivam Kushwaha. Peter Lund. Prakhar Maheshwari. Donald Marwin. Sumit Mishra. Ketun Mawadi. Nikhil Pai. Carter Papraki. Divya Pandya. Gaurav Pauthak. Ajay Patil. Gaurav Pawar. Ashish Patil. Shubham Palde. Gautam Rajavelu. Vibhor Rajput. Ultaf Raout. Sayed Rahman. Manish Rudravaju. Shreyans Sathia. Harsh Shingala. Shubham Shinde. Shubham Sinha. Rituja Shivarkar. Akash Sivakumar Daya. Akshay Soma. Christiana Strong. Shreya Thakari. Nick Tuma. Salil Visal. Emily Zaitunayan. Congratulations, graduates.
You may be seated. Will the ROTC candidates please rise and come forward? Michigan Tech takes great pride in our officer training programs. These graduates have not only met the rigors of earning a Michigan Tech degree, but have also fulfilled the requirements of the Reserve Officer Training Corps. Major Daniel Gauch of the United States Army will present the Army candidates for degree. Lieutenant Colonel Joseph Pullman of the United States Air Force will present the Air Force candidates for degree.
Second Lieutenant Logan Alger, Bachelor of Science, Mathematics, Secondary Education, Honors Cum Laude. Assignment, Minnesota Army National Guard, Branch Signal Corps. Second Lieutenant Emma Conan, Bachelor of Science in Applied Ecology and Environmental Sciences, Honors Summa Cum Laude. Assignment, Active Duty Infantry. Second Lieutenant Caleb Grolke, Bachelor of Science in Engineering Management, Honors Summa Cum Laude, Distinguished Military Graduate. Assignment, Active Duty Infantry. Second Lieutenant William Newell, Bachelor of Science in Exercise Science. Assignment, Active Duty Branch Ordnance Corps.
Second Lieutenant Mackenzie Campbell, Bachelor of Science in Applied Ecology and Environmental, magna cum laude, distinguished military graduate. Specialty, logistics readiness. First assignment, Spangdahlem Air Base, Germany. Second Lieutenant Catherine Cruikshank, Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering. Specialty, Combat Systems Officer. First assignment, Naval Air Station, Pensacola, Florida. Second Lieutenant Davis Deedle, Bachelor of Science in Environmental Engineer. Specialty, Nuclear and Missile Operations. First assignment, Vandenberg Air Force Base, California. Second Lieutenant Tiana Fusen, Bachelor of Science in Exercise Science. Cum laude. Specialty, Financial Management. First assignment, Buckley Space Force Base, Colorado. Second Lieutenant Hunter Higdon, Bachelor of Science in Engineering. Specialty, remotely piloted aircraft pilot. First assignment, Joint Base San Antonio, Randolph, Texas. Second Lieutenant Jack Lacey, Bachelor of Science in Construction Management. Specialty, nuclear and missile operations. First assignment, Vandenberg Space Force Base, California. Second Lieutenant Bailey Lokinen, Bachelor of Science in Computer Science. Specialty, Combat Systems Officer. First assignment, Naval Air Station, Pensacola, Florida. Second Lieutenant Alexandra Knowles, Bachelor of Science in Environmental Engineering. Specialty, Environmental Engineering. First assignment, Malmstrom Air Force Base, Montana. Second Lieutenant Marco Poza, Bachelor of Science in Physics. Specialty, remotely piloted aircraft pilot. First assignment, Joint Base San Antonio, Randolph, Texas. Second Lieutenant Matthias Schneider, Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering. Specialty, Air Battle Manager. First assignment, Tyndall Air Force Base, Florida. Second Lieutenant Preston Smith, Bachelor of Science in Construction Management. Specialty, Air Battle Manager. First assignment, Tyndall Air Force Base, Florida. Second Lieutenant Colton Stanislawski, Bachelor of Science in Engineering. Specialty, pilot. First assignment, Columbus, Mississippi. Second Lieutenant Nathan Willauer, Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering. Specialty, remotely piloted aircraft pilot. First assignment, Joint Base San Antonio, Randolph, Texas. Second Lieutenant Travis Yell, Bachelor of Science in Environmental Engineering. Specialty, remotely piloted aircraft pilot. First assignment, Joint Base San Antonio, Randolph, Texas. Second Lieutenant Andrew Zampoloni, Bachelor of Science in Chemistry, summa cum laude. Specialty, helicopter pilot. First assignment, Fort Rucker, Alabama. In no other profession in American society is an individual asked to make a commitment more absolute than that which these individuals will make today. The oath of office constitutes an individual moral commitment and common ethical instruction. The Constitution of the United States serves as the bedrock of authority and the responsibility upon which the oath of office is instituted. The oath of office links directly back to the Constitution and is the commitment that all officers make to service and leadership. U.S. Representative General Jack Bergman will now administer the oath of office.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your full name. Having been appointed an officer in the Armed Forces of the United States in the grade of Second Lieutenant, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same. That I take this obligation freely and without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion. And that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office upon which I am about to enter. So help me God. I now appoint you as Second Lieutenants in the Armed Forces of the United States of America. Congratulations. Let's congratulate him.
Dr. Jackie Huntoon will now present the candidates for the undergraduate degrees. Dr. Huntoon.
Thank you. Will the candidates for the Bachelor of Science and Bachelor of Arts degrees please rise? Chair Littman, I present the candidates for the Bachelor of Science and Bachelor of Arts degrees in their respective fields. Upon completion of their required curricula, these candidates are hereby recommended by the faculty to receive their degrees.
Members of the class of 2022, upon the recommendation of the faculty and having completed your required curricula, and by the authority vested in me, I do hereby confer upon you the degrees of Bachelors of Science and Bachelor of Arts in your respective courses of study, with all the rights and privileges thereto appertaining. Congratulations, and please be seated.
We love our graduate students, we love our ROTC students, but it's time to show some love to the undergrads. Will the candidates for the Bachelor's of Science degree in Construction Management please rise and come to the stage to receive your diploma?
Presenting candidates of interdisciplinary programs, Bachelor of Science, Construction Management. Corey Joseph Caute, cum laude.
Mac Hall.
Will the candidates for the Bachelor's of Science degree in Accounting, Economics, Engineering Management, Finance, Management, Management Information Systems, and Marketing please come to the platform to receive your degrees?
Presenting candidates from the College of Business, Bachelor of Science, Accounting. Emma Sue Malcori.
Chelsea Rowe, cum laude.
Charles Weiss.
Bachelor of Science, Economics, Tyler B. Siepernick.
Bachelor of Science, Engineering Management, Connor Aaron Dow.
Natalie Halligan.
Robert Neal Hawk IV.
Rebecca Ray Hellman.
Jacob Brian Hiltonen.
Kevin Reginald Lee.
John Peter Horn.
Daniel J. Martin.
Ethan Carl Pietola.
Matthew James Queerfeld.
Clayton Michael Sand, magna cum laude.
Cody Keith Slagle.
John Joseph Simolis, magna cum laude.
Bachelor of Science, Finance, Alexander Bretzman. Benjamin James Derricks, cum laude.
Trey Vincent Lavasser.
Brandon James Malberg, cum laude.
Elizabeth Maria Matson, summa cum laude.
Alicia Chartreux.
Bachelor of Science, Management. Hannah Jane Byers.
Mitch Floyd.
Daniel Nicholas Garcia.
Oda Hutlerstode, Holland.
Alexandra Maria Jaffetson.
Nathaniel Aaron Nanfeld, cum laude.
Jenna Marie Rubik, summa cum laude.
Emily Michelle Sander.
Grace Elizabeth Shaw, cum laude.
Bachelor of Science, Management Information System, Christopher Lee Arbuckle, magna cum laude.
Zachary Quentin Cushman.
Macy Pavelski, cum laude.
Nicholas Yost, cum laude.
Brendan Cook, magna cum laude.
Bachelor of Science, Marketing. Matthew M. Eerdmans.
Colton Scott Kotecki.
Allie McKay, cum laude.
And Taryn Danielle Tasto.
Will the candidates for the Bachelor of Science degree in Computer Network and System Administration, Cybersecurity, Computer Science, Electrical Engineering Technology, and Software Engineering please come to the platform to receive your diploma?
Presenting candidates from the College of Computing, Department of Applied Computing, Bachelor of Science, Computer Network and System Administration, Brandon Paul Cox.
Bradley Martin Gibson, magna cum laude.
Joseph Robert Horn, cum laude.
Darren John Hutchinson.
Brandon Arturo Lopez, cum laude.
Trent Anthony Luft, magna cum laude.
Brennan Bernard O'Connor, cum laude.
Connor Jacob Rankin, cum laude.
Devin Michael Schultz.
Gary Eugene Trop III, cum laude.
Nathan Edward Walker.
Jared Austin Warren, magna cum laude.
Kyle Kincaid White.
Bachelor of Science, Cybersecurity, Trevor John Hornsby, magna cum laude.
Stuart Paul Kernstock, Jr.
Jackson Donald Ott, cum laude.
Olivia Lane Uzoksike.
Gary Lee Watson II, cum laude.
Bachelor of Science, Electrical Engineering Technology, Eric Anthony Batts.
Darren Urias Jucan.
Joshua David Kiefer, cum laude.
Alexander Netvedek.
Alexander Philip Rogers.
Jason Glenn Sherritt, cum laude.
Lawrence Okuka.
Department of Computer Science, Bachelor of Science, Computer Science, Jared A. Anderson.
Connor J. Anzac.
Ryan Robert Baycott.
Jessica Lauren Brown, magna cum laude.
Jenna Rose Byron.
John Alexander Callahan.
Christian Charles Clemens.
Kevin D. Cornell.
Pablo Delgado IV, magna cum laude.
Aaron E. Dolson, magna cum laude.
Nisha L. Gonda.
Zhang Deng.
Ethan Joel Garvey, magna cum laude.
Thomas John Grifka, magna cum laude.
Jordan C. Gunning.
Brett Carl Hallinan.
Noah Allen Harris, magna cum laude.
Rachel Elizabeth Hartrick, magna cum laude.
David John Hedema.
Brandon Michael Hosang.
Alexander Nicholas Hiromada, cum laude.
Adam Michael Johnson, cum laude.
Sawyer Dalton Knowles, cum laude.
Baisha Cornoli.
Jacob Lashitsky.
Daniel Elijah Lipka.
Joseph Lockwood.
David Lyman, magna cum laude.
Sadish Mahadeshwar, magna cum laude.
Alexander Glenn Martin, magna cum laude.
Ethan Andrew Marchdorf, magna cum laude.
Zachary Joseph Noel, cum laude.
Tyler D. Norshaw.
Christopher Paul Norton.
Cody John Novata.
Megan Elizabeth Pothoven.
Erica Mackenzie Schleem, cum laude.
Kirk Lawrence Thalen, summa cum laude.
Alec Jace Trent, cum laude.
Elizabeth M. Van Elsen, cum laude.
Charles Joseph Vidro, summa cum laude.
Grant Montgomery Walker, magna cum laude.
Michael Christopher Walker.
Mark Douglas Washington, magna cum laude.
Noah Jacob Wah, summa cum laude.
Sarah Kangju Whitaker.
Taylor George Wilzinski, summa cum laude.
Elijah Matthew Whitty, summa cum laude.
Trevor Maxwell Youngman.
Bachelor of Science, Software Engineering, Trent James Carlson.
Ian Patrick Lowry, cum laude.
August Anthony Miller, summa cum laude.
Justin Frank Meary, cum laude.
Brian Daniel Reese.
Devin Michael Stewart.
Harrison Robert Taylor.
Jonah Theater.
Richard David Weicker.
Nicole Victoria Wishvati.
Marie Suzanne Marzurich. Sorry.
Will the amazing candidates for the Bachelor of Science degree in Applied Ecology and Environmental Science, Forestry, Natural Resources Management, Wildlife Ecology and Conservation, and Wildlife Ecology and Management please come to the platform to receive your diploma?
Presenting candidates from the College of Forest Resources and Environmental Science. Bachelor of Science, Applied Ecology and Environmental Science. Kayla Jade Douglas.
Madeline Rose Pugh, cum laude.
Rachel Marie Sperry, cum laude.
Maxwell Davis Wegner.
Brianna Michelle Wieferich.
Sierra Lynn Williams.
Bachelor of Science, Forestry. Chase Evan Falu, cum laude.
Zachary Stephen Froelich, cum laude.
William John Glazer.
Abigail Melissa Johnson, summa cum laude.
Alexander Marie Jerkenis.
Evan Todd Niebauer.
Andrew Scott Ozenich, cum laude.
Victoria Jean Peck, summa cum laude.
Joash Edward Feifelman, summa cum laude.
Bachelor of Science, Natural Resources Management, Gabrielle Eugenia Gintz.
Lucas Maria Spula, cum laude.
Bachelor of Science, Wildlife Ecology and Conservation, Jenna Irene Brewer, summa cum laude.
Shane Andrew Dunn.
Bachelor of Science, Wildlife Ecology and Management, Megan Lynn Baird, cum laude.
Dylan Michael Bishop.
Madison Nicole Dowen.
Heidi Nicole Felicek, cum laude.
Eli Andrew Pollan, cum laude.
Megan Marie Sparks.
Christian Matthew Stevens.
Claudia Elisa Zinzer, cum laude.
College of Sciences and Arts. Will the candidates for the Bachelor of Science and Bachelor of Arts degrees in Anthropology, Applied Physics, Audio Production and Technology, Biochemistry and Molecular Biology, Bioinformatics, Biological Sciences, Chemistry, Communication, Culture and Media, English, Exercise Science, Human Biology, Mathematics, Medical Laboratory Science, Pharmaceutical Chemistry, Physics, Psychology, Scientific and Technical Communication, Social Sciences, Sound Design, Sports and Fitness Management, Statistics, Sustainability, Science and Society, and Theater and Entertainment Technology, please come to the platform to receive your diploma.
Presenting candidates from the College of Science and Arts, Department of Biological Sciences, Bachelor of Science, Biochemistry and Molecular Biology, Alyssa Abbas, cum laude.
Alexander John Richards, cum laude.
Alexis Marie Shatraf, magna cum laude.
Morgan Nicole Smith, summa cum laude.
Akala Weatherby, magna cum laude.
Bachelor of Science, Bioinformatics, Charlotte Claire Hildebrandt, cum laude.
Clara May Mosentine, cum laude.
Bachelor of Science, Biological Sciences, Miranda May Gordon.
Elizabeth Harbin.
Aubrey Lynn Harkin, summa cum laude.
Larissa Joy Kilgore, magna cum laude.
Chloe Frances Lohman, magna cum laude.
Tessa Milner.
Emily Rao.
Bachelor of Science, Human Biology, Thomas Robert Basala, summa cum laude.
Jordan Marie Ludasher, cum laude.
Isabella Gabrielle Menzel Smith, summa cum laude.
Alexandria Ann Rondorf, magna cum laude.
Bachelor of Science, Medical Laboratory, Kaylin Marie Anderson.
Molly Ellen Anderson, summa cum laude.
Brooke Tiankara.
Thank you. Victoria Leda Chenier, magna cum laude.
Kirsten Rose Kader, magna cum laude.
Eleanora Catherine Cotter.
Madison Alex Degnitz.
Jenna Rose Disser, magna cum laude.
Shay Marie Ekdahl, summa cum laude.
Delilah Suzanne Hosworth, summa cum laude.
Clara Pauline Johnson, magna cum laude.
John Alexander Kostick, magna cum laude.
Nathaniel Contreras Maccabi.
Rebecca Ann Markham, magna cum laude.
Bailey Marie Poihonen.
Lillian Jen Van Loon, magna cum laude.
Department of Chemistry, Bachelor of Science, Chemistry, Michael Lawrence Byers.
Garvin Michael Huntley, magna cum laude.
Henry John Roll, cum laude.
Abigail Nicole Schwartz, summa cum laude.
Kaylee Noel War.
Bachelor of Science, Pharmaceutical Chemistry, Jamie Lee Spars.
Department of Cognitive and Learning Sciences, Bachelor of Science, Psychology. Tyrell John William Buckley, magna cum laude.
Emily Octavia Grant.
Maya Tomaszek, summa cum laude.
Department of Humanities, Bachelor of Arts, Communication, Culture, and Media, Katie E. Gerke.
Cynthia Marie Perkins, cum laude.
Maya Victoria Barnhart, cum laude, Bachelor of English.
Tucker Dean Nielsen.
Kate Lynn Woodford, magna cum laude.
Bachelor of Science, Scientific and Technical Communication, Julia Lynn Barnes, magna cum laude.
Jack Robert Brooker, cum laude.
Ryan James Caute.
Whitney Morgan Dykehouse.
Bachelor of Arts, Scientific and Technical Communication, Juliana Lee Hamecki, magna cum laude.
Emma Nicole Kustra Viredevog.
Carl Anthony Trescoma.
Department of Kinesiology and Integrative Physiology, Bachelor of Science, Exercise Science, Jalen K. Carter, cum laude.
Dawson A. Carroll, magna cum laude.
Hunter John Caro, cum laude.
Mary Elizabeth Lyon.
Savannah Patricia Pasella.
Leah Rose Preston.
Lauren Elizabeth Richter.
Allison Agnes Thalen, cum laude.
Bachelor of Science, Sports and Fitness Management, Tyler Chinhall Hampton.
Ryan Stephen Jones.
Department of Mathematical Sciences, Bachelor of Science, Mathematics, Vendall Canal, magna cum laude.
Ian Scott Bolas.
Alan Kendrick Bauman, magna cum laude.
Ella Marie Falk.
Allison Gillis, summa cum laude.
Alicia LeRae Lemmy.
Marcella Elizabeth Mick.
Griffin Andrew Pepin, cum laude.
Ashok Ravindran, cum laude.
Zoe Cordich Reap, magna cum laude.
Jacob Thomas Sidlecki, magna cum laude.
Hadley Jane Wells, summa cum laude.
Bachelor of Science, Statistics, Ryan Michael Dura, summa cum laude.
Joshua Raymond Jaskolski.
Elena Audrey Merton, summa cum laude.
Department of Physics. Bachelor of Science, Applied Physics. Trevor Andrew Kieft, summa cum laude.
Wyatt John Reller, summa cum laude.
Bachelor of Science, Physics. Mark Charles Fritz, cum laude.
Bethany Christine Hellman, cum laude.
Dalton Christopher Knight, magna cum laude.
Daniel Robert Koshar.
Anthony Dennis Palmer, summa cum laude.
Bachelor of Arts, Physics, Carvella A. Ziaida.
Department of Social Sciences. Bachelor of Science, Social Sciences. Catherine Grace Dvorak.
Bachelor of Science, Sustainability Science and Society, Madeline DeLisi, magna cum laude.
Department of Visual and Performing Arts. Bachelor of Science, Audio Production and Technology. Matthew Clemens Anderson.
Bachelor of Arts, Sound Design, Otter Pilatoves, cum laude.
Bachelor of Science, Theater and Entertainment Technology. Amy Elizabeth Verheins.
And last but not least, College of Engineering. Will the candidates for the Bachelor of Science degree in Applied Geophysics, Biomedical Engineering, Chemical Engineering, Civil Engineering, Computer Engineering, Electrical Engineering, Engineering, Environmental Engineering, Geological Engineering, Geology, Geospatial Engineering, Materials Science and Engineering, Mechanical Engineering, Mechanical Engineering Technology, mining engineering, surveying engineering, and robotics engineering. Please come to the platform to receive your diploma.
Presenting candidates from the College of Engineering, Department of Biomedical Engineering, Bachelor of Science, Biomedical Engineering, Alexandria Lynn Actus,
Zachary Leo Alish, summa cum laude.
Ayadetun Aluko, summa cum laude.
Stephanie Marie Arndt.
Pavitra Manjari Atanayaka, summa cum laude.
Tara Ann Bador. How are you doing? Good.
Braxton Brooks Blackwell,
Maggie Rebecca Blevins, cum laude.
Nathaniel John Bretzman, cum laude.
Mitchell Lowen Conan, magna cum laude.
Megan Elizabeth Cotter,
Cami Elise Davatila.
Laura DeMarchi, magna cum laude.
Matthew Xavier Delgado.
Drew Ivan Dickens,
Emily Nicole Downs.
Kaylee Rose Dunn, summa cum laude.
Austin Lewis Fisher.
Aaron B. Fortin,
Aiden John Frost, cum laude.
Nicole Gallup, with an additional degree in mechanical engineering.
Michael A. Harrison.
Brian Alexander Keeson,
Adam Weston Crutch.
Taylor Kuneth, cum laude.
Hannah Joy Laughlin.
Laura Claire Lyons, magna cum laude.
Alex Benson McLean, magna cum laude.
Murphy Aaron Mallow, cum laude.
Abigail Elizabeth Martin, magna cum laude.
Jared Ronald Martini, summa cum laude.
Noah Chase Moser.
Alexia Lynn Nelson, summa cum laude.
Joshua M. O'Loughlin, cum laude.
Kavi Patel,
Maxwell John Platy, magna cum laude.
Kyra Sue Prattley,
Lydia Ann Rahel Wilson, cum laude.
Abe Raskin, cum laude.
Natalie Francis Reed, cum laude.
Charles Bruce Ringy,
Tate Glenna Robinson, summa cum laude.
Wade Hunter Schultz.
Paige Lakin Snyder.
Breton Gail Swenner.
Paige Loretta Ruwink, cum laude.
Ashley Rose Welch, cum laude.
Natalie Erica Volgamut.
Maxwell Jerome Woodward.
Department of Chemical Engineering, Bachelor of Science, Chemical Engineering. Austin James Alexa, magna cum laude.
Riley Elise Anderson, magna cum laude.
Alicia K. Ball.
Nathaniel Ryan Bosler.
Harrison Alexander Best, magna cum laude.
Lydia Elaine Bell, cum laude.
Joshua Michael Bilkey, cum laude.
Colton Joseph Campbell, magna cum laude.
Sylvia May Kasser.
Autumn Eve Cole.
Elisha Samuel Coleman.
Grant Arthur Davatilla.
Alexander James Dart.
Keegan Andrew Delforge, summa cum laude.
Barias Dimitruk.
Brittany K. Duford, cum laude.
Brandon Lee Earl.
Blake Edward Farnham.
Gabrielle Jordan Feber, summa cum laude.
Sarah Elizabeth Foyer, summa cum laude.
Mackenzie Joel Garza.
Zachary Thomas Genter.
Andrew Delbert Gim, summa cum laude.
Brady Thomas Good, summa cum laude.
Andrew Sean Grisbeard, summa cum laude.
Sarah Ann Gustafson, magna cum laude.
Isabella Maisie Habirski.
Cale B. Hansen.
Rachel May Haslam.
Caleb M. Hatch.
Trisha Janelle Herron, cum laude.
Shane Warren Holcomb.
Michael Seth Johnson, cum laude.
Sarah Elizabeth Kempen, magna cum laude.
Noah Lawrence Kinney.
Lauren A. Conkall, summa cum laude.
Corey Daniel Larson, summa cum laude.
Nathan Peter Liebhauser, cum laude.
Connor Lawrence Lipinski, summa cum laude. How are you?
Taylor Lewis Gremban, cum laude.
Audrey Ellen Lyons.
Jessica Page Lyons, magna cum laude.
Tanner Brace Mon, magna cum laude.
Stephanie Manthei.
Jessie Jean Marie McInnes, cum laude.
Emily Grace Matson, cum laude.
Emerald Elizabeth Mailer, magna cum laude.
Anthony William Messina, summa cum laude.
Morgan Nicole Miller, cum laude.
Quinn Donald Miller, summa cum laude.
Kira Jacqueline Milhausen.
Zachary Arthur Olson, cum laude.
Morgan Marie Ottman, magna cum laude.
Zachary David Peel, cum laude.
Devin Michael Faudrey Price, magna cum laude.
Abigail Marie Pula.
Braden Aaron Rackville.
Cameron Robert Reed, summa cum laude.
Rebecca Laura Rivera.
Thomas M. Sapak, cum laude.
Nathan Charles Shar, magna cum laude.
Anna Catherine Schmalzel.
Sloan Elizabeth Schultz, summa cum laude.
Emily Elizabeth Senor.
Lindsay Gail Shear, cum laude.
Benjamin Michael Sosnowski, cum laude.
Lauren Elaine Spahn, magna cum laude.
Jonathan Cole Sullins, cum laude.
Andrew Allen Taylor.
Ryan J. Turner, cum laude.
Alicia Lee Weigold, magna cum laude.
Diana Marie Westrick, cum laude.
Seth Richard Whiting.
Rebecca Morgan Williams.
Taylor Ray Williams.
Jacob Robert Wittucky.
John Lawrence Ilatello.
Claire Elise Decker.
Department of Civil, Environmental, and Geospatial Engineering, Bachelor of Science, Civil Engineering, Casey B. Abel, Jr.
Lindsay Karina Anderson, magna cum laude.
Elizabeth Beckus.
Trent Jacob Bell.
Stephanie C. Bobo, magna cum laude.
Skylar Jean Callis, with an additional degree in mathematics, summa cum laude.
Jason Timothy Sinalder, cum laude.
Luciano Sestaro.
Lauren Elizabeth Cole.
Corey David Curtis.
Allison Rose Fenton, magna cum laude.
Grant Thomas Freudenstein, cum laude.
Trevor Thomas Harrison.
Wade Stephen Impola.
Jacob Michael Johns.
Samantha Rosemary Johnson, summa cum laude.
Rochelle Elizabeth Krieger.
Derek A. Mahosky.
Rachel Marie May.
Stephen Michael McGregor.
Travis John Mayette.
Sabrina Lee Nystrom, cum laude.
Mary Elizabeth Alice.
John Peter Paramsky.
Benjamin Dennis Passolt, magna cum laude.
Margaret Mary Peterson.
Brock Douglas Patrak.
Gregory Procaro, magna cum laude.
Eric Charles Puscala, summa cum laude.
Morgan Rayleigh, summa cum laude.
Madeline Marie Wright, summa cum laude.
Zachary James Servinsky.
Mark Ryan Sheen.
Jacob A. Stewart, magna cum laude.
Taylor Douglas Stewart, magna cum laude.
Jacob Peter Talon, magna cum laude.
Madison Nicole Tata, magna cum laude.
Andrew J. Vega, cum laude.
Jordan P. Wheeler.
Casey Alexandra Wiskowski.
Dean Wozniak, cum laude.
Bachelor of Science, Environmental Engineering. Caitlin Marie Adair.
Annika Marin Bergstrom, magna cum laude.
Audra Bilick.
Michelle S. Bolini, magna cum laude.
Aiden Grace Clark.
Danielle Demarest, magna cum laude.
Rachel Lloyd Fuller.
Maya Elizabeth Geiselhart, cum laude.
Jack Joseph Huffman.
Nicholas Charles Kemp Schulte, summa cum laude.
Jenna Aurora Maria Kivala Heinz.
Shaylin Josephine Colieber, summa cum laude.
Skylar Elizabeth Kruger.
Kate Linnea Mahonen.
Isabel Genevieve Helen Manson.
Max McGuire.
Nicole Renee Malcarrick.
Nicholas Portwine.
Joseph Benjamin Primo, summa cum laude.
Evan Rye.
Autumn Rose Sanford.
Madison Irene Seymour.
Lily Mae Sparks.
Chloe Lynn Strack, summa cum laude. Jamel Elliott Thompson, Jr.
Isabel Bonnie Amberg Valencia.
Bachelor of Science, Geospatial Engineering, Connor David Welling, magna cum laude.
Bachelor of Science, Survey Engineering, Spencer Trace Plummer.
Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering, Bachelor of Science, Computer Engineering, Ryan Lloyd Beatley.
Kaylin Hawks Boynton.
Tyler Chandler.
Randy Thomas Cote, summa cum laude.
Grant DeClean, summa cum laude.
Dustin Duclos.
Mitchell Frederick Ekstrand.
Isaac Harry Fortier.
Noah Cameron Hornfisher.
Okay. Andrea Lee.
No, Andrea.
Oh, Andrea Lee. Sorry.
Patrick Gordon McCommons, cum laude.
Geza Raymond Nagy, sorry, cum laude.
Emma Claire Naninga.
Harris Martin Neal.
Stephen Clarence Ott, summa cum laude.
Sean Michael Parker, cum laude.
Hampton Pettinger.
J. Lewis Schimmeler II, summa cum laude.
Eli Schmitter, cum laude.
Evan Lawrence Smith.
Jolo Vandenberg, magna cum laude.
Jacob Michael Zetti.
Bachelor of Science, Electrical Engineering. Molly K. Bierman, cum laude.
Colin Thomas Bannister.
Richard Charles Bremer III.
Chad Wallace Bruce, magna cum laude.
Austin Robert Bucknell.
Travis Jacob Kavanaugh, cum laude.
Jaden Seo.
Lawrence Michael Dilworth Jr., cum laude.
Rocco Dishman.
Garrick Hamilton Ensminger, magna cum laude.
Joshua Nicholas Green, summa cum laude.
Tyler Jacob Hartman, cum laude.
Sky Ann Hempel.
Nicholas John Hoffbeck.
Neelan Cassidy Holly, cum laude.
Spencer David Howe, magna cum laude.
Gerardo Jimenez Damian.
Haley Marie Job, summa cum laude.
Emma Cantala, with an additional degree in applied mathematics.
Estefanio Questo, summa cum laude.
Jenna Elizabeth McClintock, cum laude.
Michael George McDonald, cum laude.
Elijah Morgan.
Joshua John Myers.
Jasmine Grace Euphemia Nejene.
Thomas Eugene Olson, cum laude.
Veronica Orman.
Sophia May Owen, magna cum laude.
Michelle Pudas, cum laude.
Bailey Purdy, with an additional degree in mechanical engineering.
Marley Purdy.
Evan Carl Robb.
Bofa Saldana.
Andrew Sizlove, with an additional degree in mechanical engineering, summa cum laude.
Mason Smith, cum laude.
Graham Alfred Spalding, cum laude.
Dillinger James Stewart.
Robert M. Stewart, Jr.
Joseph Sarchata.
Jared Allen Talsma.
Peter Alden Vanderkook.
Samuel Harvey Walker, summa cum laude.
Nicholas Wisman, summa cum laude.
Alexander Lynn Wilt, with an additional degree in mechanical engineering, magna cum laude.
Department of Engineering Fundamentals, Bachelor of Science, Engineering, Brianna M. Shallow, summa cum laude.
Andrew Dean Houston, cum laude.
Cora Ann Jarman.
Logan Patrick Smith.
Department of Geological and Mining Engineering and Sciences, Bachelor of Science, Applied Geophysics, Olivia Marie Salvaggio.
Bachelor of Science, Geological Engineering, Lila Shanti Carden. Leela, sorry.
Justin Catola.
Hayden Thomas Risco.
Bachelor of Science, Geology, Cooper Andrew Osgood.
Ryan James Schweiderson, cum laude.
Stephen Suhonen, Jr.
Bachelor of Science, Mining Engineering, Cade S. Johnson, cum laude.
Department of Manufacturing and Mechanical Engineering Technology, Bachelor of Science, Mechanical Engineering Technology, Zach Bearett.
Brendan Avery Bloom.
Spencer R. Butke, magna cum laude.
Cody James Eby.
Derek Paul Flory, magna cum laude.
Michael Joseph Forrester.
Erica Lynn Gabriel.
Brandon M. Kuhn.
Bill Rukoff.
Dane Alex Ria.
Ian Salo, cum laude.
Darius Malik Schultz.
Alexander Dominic Sherry.
Jacob Evan Talaga.
Joseph Kurt Williams.
Hannah Aaron Wright.
Department of Material Science and Engineering, Bachelor of Science, Material Science and Engineering, Cal Joseph Benowitz, cum laude.
Reese Eichner, cum laude.
Eli Harmer, cum laude.
Anna Marie Hildebrandt, summa cum laude.
Taylor Elizabeth Hines.
Sophie Alex Mel, summa cum laude.
Victoria Jean Nizzi with an additional degree in mechanical engineering, summa cum laude.
Luke Allen Reich, summa cum laude.
Matt Reich, summa cum laude.
Shannon Nicole Smith.
Ashlyn Marie Steer, cum laude.
Department of Mechanical Engineering, Engineering Mechanics. Bachelor of Science, Mechanical Engineering. Jake Davison Abbott.
Nick Alsop.
Nolan Lee Annis, summa cum laude.
Patrick Ross Oz, cum laude.
Jordan Todd Batter.
Samuel Robert Barwick, summa cum laude.
Matthew David Beals, magna cum laude.
Zbigniew James Bell with an additional degree in material science and engineering.
Morgan Thomas Bilick.
Ruby Jane Berkelbaugh.
Cody Scott Blaukamp, magna cum laude.
Jack Lewis Block, summa cum laude.
Jacob G. Bondi, cum laude.
Christopher Breyer.
Michael Alexander Brown.
Sawyer Allen Bullock, magna cum laude.
Andrew Mark Bunge.
Jeremy Austin Burby, magna cum laude.
Allison Gabriella Calder.
Logan Canal, summa cum laude.
Charles Leonard Carey, magna cum laude.
Frederick Franklin Call III, summa cum laude.
Chase Michael Carpenter.
Cal Allen Clough, with an additional degree in finance, summa cum laude.
Zachary Allen Crook, magna cum laude.
Cameron John Curtis.
James Joseph Danon, magna cum laude.
Drew Devadatila, magna cum laude.
Zachary N. Darkowski, magna cum laude.
Kyle Cole Demery.
Paige Ann Dopp, with an additional degree in biomedical engineering, magna cum laude.
Krista Rose Eden, with a minor in Germany aerospace engineering. That's it.
Andrew Thiessen Irvin.
Colin Fleming.
Tyler Michael Fogg.
Devin Jonathan Forner.
Michaela C. Fung, cum laude.
Joaquin Ganosa.
Matthew S. Gothier, summa cum laude.
Isaac Leroy Ginther.
Timothy Carl Gerst, cum laude.
Trenton Ryan Gim.
Connor Thomas Gilbreth, magna cum laude.
Aaron Lynn Goff.
Joseph Michael Galinsky, cum laude.
Andrew Michael Gios, cum laude.
Eric Robert Goetz.
Austin Googe.
Anna Elizabeth Gulen, summa cum laude.
Andrew Joseph Gunnett.
Mackenzie Holly Glusing.
Timothy William Hamilton, summa cum laude.
Kyle J. Harris, cum laude.
Tyler Christian Harris.
Zachary Harold Hayes.
Oliver Hayeswinkle.
Garrett Ross Henry.
Joshua Robert Hentowski.
Noemi Nicole Hadrich, with an additional degree in humanities.
Valerie Ariana Hernandez Mendoza.
John David Hare, magna cum laude.
Daniel James Hood, magna cum laude.
Nicholas Allen Hopp.
Cody Hughes, magna cum laude.
Jonathan Clayton Hurlbert, magna cum laude.
Hayden Charles Hatula, magna cum laude.
Andrew Thomas Jackson.
Jared Scott Jarvis.
Seth Daniel Jensen Young, cum laude.
Colin David Johnson.
Carter N. Johnston.
Alex Klashush.
Jacob Paul Klotz.
Anthony Scott Kerner.
Landon Philip Coates, summa cum laude.
Zachary A. Condrat, summa cum laude.
Matthew Jacob Krause.
Jack Kukan.
Gavin James Campellis, cum laude.
Lucas Hunter Kuznicki.
Joshua Stephen Lampier.
Turner Lechner.
Jacob L. Longstreth, cum laude.
Valerie Rose Lynch, magna cum laude.
Austin Patrick Mahoney.
Nicholas Matrogene.
Joseph Edward McCarthy.
Connor McClement.
Noah Dennis McKnight Tamioka.
Zora McPhail.
Elizabeth Lynn McVeigh, cum laude.
McLean Minting.
Mitchell Thomas Meyer, cum laude.
Corinne Amira Mikesell.
Ethan Michael Miller.
Sophie Elise Miller.
Stephen David Maleko.
J. Monique.
Eric Mark Mosner.
Justin Reed Moyo, cum laude.
Cesar Nakasone.
Sudanshi Sushil Nakede, cum laude.
Hunter William Nelson.
Daniel Nee Meyer.
Luke Kevin Nutt, cum laude.
Daniel John Olson, magna cum laude.
Leif Carlton Olson, magna cum laude.
Blake Jeffrey Otto.
Luke Edward Owens.
Casper Daniel Padilla.
Mitchell Royce Patterson.
Sean Patterson.
Zachary Orion Pierce, cum laude.
Nishan Peruri, with an additional degree in material science and engineering.
Catherine Laura Piak, cum laude.
Nathaniel Pippin, magna cum laude.
Samantha Nora Poole.
Daniel Arthur Prada, magna cum laude.
Luke Christopher Quilliams, magna cum laude.
David Reisanen, summa cum laude.
Nicholas Cole Redmond, magna cum laude.
Parker Jordan Wren.
Ross Riley Richards.
Jessica Nomi Romero Martinez.
Randall Marie Ruby.
Chase Ritliski, summa cum laude.
Nicholas D. Sand.
Colin Jackson Schaefer, summa cum laude.
Dutch Alexander Schaefer.
Jacob Daniel Schaldenbrand.
Austin Reeve Schaub.
Nicholas Schieberl.
Jacob Daniel Schlieben.
Nicholas Schlicht.
Lucas Michael Schlemp, magna cum laude.
Josh Sater.
Noah Gregory Skripjack.
Fisher Shaw Soberg.
Nicholas Sororoff.
Nathan Joseph Serp, magna cum laude.
Aiden Michael Stead, summa cum laude.
Bridget Stryker.
Grace Margaret Tenborough, summa cum laude.
Stephen Tyler Thorson.
Sean Michael Toohey.
Elijah Tomala, cum laude.
Stephen Robert Turner.
Hunter Way, summa cum laude.
Corey James Wayward, cum laude.
Mitchell D. Welter.
Zachary James Worth.
Owen White, magna cum laude.
Kyle Reese Wiersma.
Jacob Tyler Wilkerson.
Dylan J. Williams.
Elizabeth Nancy Williams.
Ethan James Zart with an additional degree in electrical engineering, cum laude.
Matthew Zambon, cum laude.
Samantha Michelle Zerbel, magna cum laude.
James Zazowski, magna cum laude.
That was what we call super awesome. Okay. Graduates, Now that you are alumni of this university, yep, it is my pleasure to introduce to you Michigan Tech Alumni Board of Directors, Christine Collage from class of 1995. Christine holds a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from Michigan Tech and a master's in engineering management from the University of Michigan. She is currently the president of the Alumni Board and also been a member of the Michigan Tech Career Advisory Board. Kristen is currently vice president at AG Power, responsible for automotive quality benchmarking and mobility development. Please join me in welcoming Kristen Collage.
All right, thank you, President Kobeck, and we're in the home stretch, I swear. So good morning to you graduates, or good afternoon, now that it's been that many hours, but I hope that word sounds like music to your ears. And a special hello to the fellow returning Michigan Tech alumni that are in the audience. Welcome home to you. So it is such an honor to be here with you today to celebrate this milestone in your life. And while there is perceived pressure to say something great during this brief speech that may change your life, the realization is you are already great. You are a Husky. And you are leaving here today with a prestigious degree from Michigan Tech that will be sure to set you up for success in your career. So as president of the Michigan Tech Alumni Board of Directors, I welcome you to the Husky Nation of alumni and friends, totaling more than 80,000. Our mission is to celebrate traditions and create connections. There is a bond that each of us shares at Michigan Tech that is very special and unique, and something that surely sets us apart from other universities. We each understand the tenacity required of us during our time here at Michigan Tech to get us to this very moment. And we have each experienced some crazy traditions done only here on this beloved campus. So as you leave your home here at Michigan Tech, I hope you realize that this will always be your home. And I hope that you will come back to visit often. Come back to Alumni Reunion. Don't wait for it to be a milestone year. Come back to Winter Carnival, or even participate in one of our newly created traditions of an alumni snow statue contest. So you don't need snow, and you can do that wherever you are in the world. And stop into the Alumni House. Soak up the history of fellow Huskies, and certainly how the university has evolved. I know the first time that I stopped in, it was one of those moments where I said, why hadn't I done this before? So celebrate Michigan Tech wherever you may be headed. Attend local alumni events and meet other Tech alum. Get engaged in recruiting Michigan Tech students for your company. Hang your Michigan Tech flag proudly in your office or in your Zoom background. You'll be amazed at how many conversations it will start. So wherever life takes you, be an ambassador of Michigan Tech. We are a part of your brand, and you are a part of ours. Be proud and say so. You've earned it. So congratulations to you graduates. Welcome to the Michigan Tech alumni family. Now go put your Husky paw print on the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. This class joins accomplished alumni who have received degrees from Michigan Tech University and now live in every state and many foreign countries. As this group of graduates leaves our campus, they carry with them the well-earned diploma and the very best wishes for every success in your chosen fields. And finally, to the graduating class of 2022, you've enhanced our lives, our campus community, with your talents, your intelligence, your hard work, your creativity and service. And as you go make your mark on the world, know that we are proud of you, we have confidence in you, and we wish you the very best always. Would the graduating class of 2022 now please stand and accept our congratulations. Congratulations and job well done.